welcome to episode 5 of For the Fun of Knit. My name is Linda. I am known as Nana Knits on Instagram and Ravelry. This is a podcast on all the adventures and misadventures of knitting, all of which I consider to be a lot of fun, which is kind of why I'm podcasting, because I figure that sharing some of that fun and that misadventure can be a lot of entertainment, but it also can be a learning for not just me, but anybody who is watching. So if this is your first time watching this podcast, thank you for giving it a try. Hopefully you'll find some enjoyment out of it. If you're returning, thank you, thumbs up. And for anybody who likes this video, please don't forget to subscribe and to like at the bottom of or after the YouTube video. Again, episode 5, it's been a while. I did a few episodes late last year, started podcasting because I discovered knitting very, I'm going to say late in life, even though I don't consider myself to be old by any stretch of the imagination, but I only started knitting 2.5 years ago. And it has been a huge learning experience and a fun learning experience the whole entire way. I'm very fortunate. I recently retired. I retired last fall from a very wonderful organization and a great career. So I'm very grateful and thankful for that, which has given me a lot of time to explore knitting in more depth. And I certainly have lots of finished objects and more works in progress than finished objects, which always seems to be the case with me. I'm learning about the different types of knitters you could be, and it seems to me that I'm turning into a process knitter as opposed to a product knitter. A process knitter is somebody who, if I understand this correctly, somebody who just likes the process of knitting and isn't too motivated, or the motivation is not to finish something. The motivation is just to enjoy and to learn and to try new things. And I think both are creative on both sides, but I think as a product focused knitter, you actually get things done. As a process focused knitter, you just get carried away in the whole process of knitting and fiber arts. And I didn't think that would be me, but it's turning out to be who I am as a knitter. So it's kind of fun to explore that as well. Anyway, I would like to share some of the work that is in progress, and I do have a little bit of show notes today because I'm very, very rusty or very new. I actually never got good at this yet. So I do have a few notes that I just want to follow to make sure that I sort of keep us on track, and I'm trying to keep this as concise as possible, which so far in episode 5, all previous 4 have been very long-winded. So feel free to pause it, do something else, come back if you're being entertained in some way. As I said, my name is Linda. I live in South Surrey. I think I said that, which is a suburb of Vancouver. Actually, it's a city on its own. Surrey is a city on its own, just outside of Vancouver. It's 45 minutes to downtown for me. I have lived here since the late 70s, all through my high school years anyway, and university, and have worked for organizations in the Lower Mainland and have been traveling all over Canada with my work. I am married to a wonderful man named Patrick. We have a great big beast of a dog named Duke, who is a border collie crossed with a Groenendael, which is a black Belgian shepherd, and whoever thought of that cross, I'm pretty sure that was not an intended breed mix. But I'm really, really lucky, and I'll show some pictures at some point of Duke, but he's a medium energy dog for those of you that are dog lovers. But generally speaking, a border collie and a Belgian shepherd, interesting. But that's us. We live in we're very fortunate to live in a lovely home. My mother lives in the Okanagan. My sister lives in Virginia, classy, and I miss her very much. Her name is Clasina. She is the one who got me into knitting in the first place. What else can I tell you about me if this is your first time? Just came back from Spain. We spent a few months in Spain as part of my retirement trip because I just recently retired. And that was wonderful. And then literally 2020 came about, and I don't know about anybody watching, but quite frankly, this year has been a gong show. On a personal level, probably the worst year for my family. We lost my dad in January, which was quite devastating, unexpectedly. Then we had the pandemic. We were in Spain and just left Spain just before they closed down the country. We have friends back there that are still in complete and utter lockdown. They're not allowed to leave except for grocery shoppings, and then grocery shopping or go to the pharmacy. And then if they're stopped on the road by the Guardia Civil, they have to explain why they're on the road. So in Spain, it has been quite difficult. So my heart goes out to all of my friends in Spain, and certainly to the community at large that is suffering through this. We're very sheltered here in South Surrey, to the best of my knowledge. I don't know of anybody who's got coronavirus. I don't hear of any cases in South Surrey. In Vancouver, we have a few. In BC, I shouldn't say a few. I think we're upwards of getting close to 1,000 cases in BC, British Columbia. But again, compared to other parts of the world, it's being managed or kept to a minimum, which I'm very, very thankful for. And thank you to all of the healthcare workers. If anybody is in that field and watching, I don't think there's enough gratitude for what you're doing. And so certainly a big thank you from me and my family. That said, what's happening today? Okay, so how we're keeping ourselves entertained. Knitting. Thank you, knitting. Thank you for the fiber arts. Thank you for fiber artists. Thank you for yarn dyers, and all the people that raise sheep and shear the wool. And there are so many podcasts that I'm watching that are sheep and mill owners, that you're making the yarn for us. And then there's the dyers, and then there's the pattern designers. So thank you to all of you and all the local yarn shops. I've got my faves, for giving us access to such a wonderful craft that can certainly support and keep us sane through what it's got to be the craziest times that my generation has seen, for sure. That said, gardening is another big one. So I'm very much a homebody. In my career, I always thought I was an extrovert because I had to be on stage so much, and I mean public speaking and stuff like that. And it came naturally to me. I was comfortable to do it. I was always called upon to do it. But as I am now retired, I didn't really realize how much I enjoy not working. And it's not that I'm not going to work again. It's just that if I'm going to, choose to do something else, it will be something much less in public and more in the background, which I'm enjoying so much, to being a homebody and gardening. So difficult as this pandemic is and social distancing is, maybe it's just timing, or maybe it's my innate personality. I'm finding it quite tolerable. That said, I have an 81-year-old mother who I travel every 2 weeks to go see, and that worries me a great deal because I'm terrified that I'm going to inadvertently bring something to my mom. And so we're sort of having discussions about whether or not that's even a good idea anymore. But my mom's on her own, and so complete isolation versus the risk of me bringing something, that's a conversation we're having in our family, and it's a difficult one. So, but enough about that. This is about yarn and all things fibery and fun. This is part of my stash. As you can see, it's got several rows up and several rows down, and it kind of goes around the corner. But don't hate me. I've collected over the last 2.5 years. So, what else would I like to say? Probably let's start with the knitting part, because that's the fun part. And I might look in the wrong spot, so I apologize if, sorry, just put my notes down. This is my finished object. This is the Millie sweater. Do I have a picture of Millie? Yes, I do. And I've talked about this in my last podcast. This is by Nice and Knit, and it is a top-down raglan sleeved sweater. I finished it. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to push the camera away a little bit, so please nobody gets seasick, and hopefully things don't drop off too badly. But then I'm going to stand up a little bit and see if you can, oh, you can't really see it. Okay, well, I'll bend down. But it is quite spacious. There's lots of me in here, or there's lots of room here, but I'm just showing you a little bit of the drape. The length of the sleeves is just lovely. And if you notice the neckline, it's a little bit wider than the pattern. Now the Millie sweater, it's knit out of a merino cashmere from All You Knit Is Love, and I bought this when I was in Barcelona Knits. I was very fortunate enough to be able to go to Barcelona Knits, and I bought this, and it is paired with a silk mohair lace weight from Liver Dye Yarns in baby pink. Also, that was an Italian yarn maker, and again from Barcelona Knits. And so this is the Millie sweater. Now this sweater took me 3 attempts to make it. The pattern is perfectly written. The pattern is simple. I would recommend this sweater for any beginner knitter. For me though, I tend to be a bit of an experimenter, and sometimes I think I know what I'm doing and I don't, because I'm relatively new still at knitting. I probably can't say that too much longer, but when I knit the Millie, there are no short rows in the back. So there are no rows in the back to raise the back neckline. And so the neckline was very close for me, and it actually hit me right at my Adam's apple, which was not comfortable for me. I have no issues with a little bit of mohair. Like, mohair does not itch me at all. So the fabric was lovely. It was just that the neck was really tight. So I thought, oh, okay, well, I will do that again. And I did short rows in the back to raise the back, which, as you can see, dropped the front from here to here. I have to admit, I probably blocked the bejeebies out of this sweater because I was terrified it was still too small in the neck, and I think I might have over blocked the neck. So this is not as wide as it would normally be if you put short rows in and you blocked it a little bit. It wouldn't be as wide, but I think a little bit of overkill. I love the way it turned out, but it's probably a little bit of overkill. But needless to say, so I knit all the way down to, I'm going to say mid-waist before I tried it on. Mistake number 1. A top-down sweater is wonderful because the moment you separate for the sleeves, that's when you can try it on to get the general fit. I didn't do that. I thought I was just following the pattern and it looked fine. And so I got halfway down, and then I thought, oh, well, maybe I should try it. And then of course the neck was up here. And I'm like, okay, that's not comfortable for me. So I spent over 3 hours unripping the whole sweater. And the reason it took me so long is because it was mohair and fingering weight yarn. And so I was having to pull apart both strands and then roll them up, trying not to tangle them. And I didn't have any problems. I didn't have as much problems as I thought I would undoing it, but that is what I did. And then I started knitting it again, and I got part way down. After I did the short rows in the back, I got part way down, and the color was kind of pooling a bit. I didn't really understand about when you have hand-dyed yarn, you should be alternating skeins. Rip right back and started alternating skeins. So I did that. I made the sleeves a little bit longer than the pattern because I like I like it to be cozy. And I made the pattern a little bit longer in the body. So just because I don't think I'm long-waisted at all, but I just like to have a little bit more fabric, and I wanted to use all the yarn, so that's what I did. But I love, see, there's lots of room. So this is a boxy style sweater, but I absolutely love it. I will wear it a ton, and I can't say enough about it. It's absolutely a beautiful sweater. I think it was a 4.5 millimeter needle that I used, and I used Hia stainless metal needles, which I really like on this particular sweater. So that's one finished object. Another finished object I want to share with you, I actually made before I left. I probably made this last summer, but I want to share it with you because it's not something I see a lot on podcasts. We talk a lot about garments and a lot about shawls and whatnot, but I wanted to show an accessory, and it's hanging right here. And this is, I'm just going to grab the pattern. This is the Astera bag. I don't know if you can see it. There you go. It's the Astera bag by Grace. Oh, I need my glasses. By Grace Go-In out of the one of the Pom Pom magazines. And the reason I wanted to share this particular project was because this is the bag. Look at how lovely that turned out. Hopefully you can see. I did order some beautiful leather straps from Etsy. And it even has my, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it even has engraved Nana Knits. What can I tell you? And I absolutely love this. This is pre-pandemic knitting, but the idea of a washable grocery bag that you just throw in the grocery, I just wanted to go more, I'm in a phase of trying to get rid of plastics as much as I can. And so while I'm 100% on board, it's taking a little longer to get my husband on board, but because let's face it, plastic is very convenient. But I am trying very hard to reduce the amount of plastic that we use as a household. And so one of the things was to make reusable shopping bags. Now, when I knit this out of cotton I bought at Walmart, and it was $1.95 a ball. And this took, I think, 12 balls of cotton, 100% cotton. This is the same cotton that you would make dishcloths out of. And it is sturdy and it is easy to knit with, super affordable. And this pattern knit up so easily, and it's such a big, beautiful bag. It is a finished object on the one hand, but I'm also considering it a work in progress. And the reason being is I'm going to line it. So I have just inherited my mother's sewing machine and serger. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm sorry. Sorry for language, but I don't have a clue. I might have sewn 30 years ago, have not since. That's quite some time. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't know how to sew. I look at those machines, they're over there. I look at those machines, I'm going, oh my God, that's a whole nother learning curve. But I do want to make a nice canvas lining for this because these handles you can snap on and off, and I don't want to stretch out the cotton. I would like this to be a very sturdy, big shopping bag. And so I'm going to line it with some probably in a chartreusey color or something really fun with watermelons or pineapples or food, God knows. But that is a finished object I wanted to share, and I love the pattern. And again, it was in the Pom Pom magazine. I can't remember which, spring of 2017. Spring of 2017, but I bought that magazine in 2018 sometime and only knit this last summer. So that was that sort of finished object. The other thing, if you've watched any of my previous podcasts, when I was living in Spain, it was over the Christmas period, so Christmas socks. Kind of what you knit. So a pair that I finished before our trip in Spain was this. This is my very first pair of socks, and I wanted to share it because I've learned so much about knitting socks. So this is CC Almond's French vanilla cappuccino socks pattern with a gusset heel, and it is toe up, so very simple. It also had an option, I do believe, is this CC Almond's? I think so, because these particular ones I did top down. I think it gave you the both options. And it's actually a very good tutorial on knitting socks. But because this is my first socks and I knew nothing about fitting socks, I've got lots of extra fabric here, as you can see. So it's quite a thick sock. So these are actually way too big for me. So they're almost like house socks. They're not really like go out and wear in your shoe socks, but I love them and they're Christmassy. And this is Ancient Arts Get Off. If you can see that, this is a great, great fabric. This is Ancient Arts Get Off My Lawn Rudolph colorway, and the red toes, heel, and cuff is Artfil Scarlet, just their sock yarn. So a great combination. Those were my very first socks. I loved making those. A great project to start with. I don't know, some people don't think socks are a good beginner project, but I do, and especially if you just do all one color. You learn a lot of different techniques in sock knitting. When I was in one of my previous podcasts, I also talked about these socks. These are the painted toe socks, pretty painted toe socks. It was my first attempt at color work. You can see the color work there. I'm not going to talk a lot about these because I did cover them. The only thing that I want to say about these particular socks is these were my first toe-up socks, or one of my second pair of toe-up socks, but also I learned about customizing the heel. When I did this heel, which is a short row heel, it ended up being too narrow. It wasn't wide enough for me. So I had to knit extra rows around before I started the decreases in the heel. And this is the fun part about socks, is you can customize them. You can customize how deep you need it. If you've got a high arch, you might need some extra stitches in this part of the sock. If you've got a wider heel, which I do, you can add more rows as you're doing your heel. You can obviously customize the length of sock that you like. You can make them very personal to yourself, but also as a gift. So these are absolutely wonderful. So that's a finished object. They were finished in the last podcast, but I changed the heel. So there you go. Then again, more Christmas socks, but this is when, yeah, I had to come back to Canada. Needless to say, I bought, and I'm saying I'm a lot, I do apologize. I bought some Opus yarn, and this was just, I don't even know what the colorway is. I bought it from the Art of Yarn in Kelowna when I was up there. And I love this self-striping yarn. If you need a mindless, I'm going to call it therapeutic, sort of a knit, get some self-striping yarn. I've never done that before. This was the first one. And you can't see it, but it's got a bit of stellina in it, which is so sparkly. This is, again, the same sock pattern, toe up all the way, and again, just a short row heel. But I absolutely love how these turned out. And again, much more fitted. There's no extra movement in here, so I have a really nice fitted sock. I loved those ones. Then just in the last, I'm going to say the beginning of March, or was it February? Yeah, I guess it was February. I have been watching, I love podcasts. I love watching podcasts, which is one of the reasons I'm podcasting, because I love it. And I think they're a lot of fun. And it doesn't matter how many I watch, I always find something different and something new and something entertaining. And I love the personalities, and you get to know the people. And it's such a vibrant community that I thought, hey, I want me some of that. I want me some of that. So I thought I would start podcasting. But one of the ones that I watch is Joanna or Opera Jo from Stitching the High Notes. She is an opera singer in San Francisco, and she was holding a make-along, actually. So sewing, knitting, stitching, whatever it is, but based on the Outlander series, because Outlander is still going on. And I read those books. My sister introduced me to those books, and I must have read those 20 years ago. So I have just started listening to them again on audio, on Audible. But the make-along was, you had to knit something that was Outlander themed. And of course, mindless, I chose socks, but these socks are called the Fergus socks. And you can see this beautiful diamond pattern going all the way up. As it turns out, you're supposed to put the diamond pattern on the back. I missed that part of the instructions, and I just went merrily along knitting just with the diamonds on the front. But apparently you're supposed to pick them up here again and continue on. But needless to say, this is a pattern by Anna Freiberg, I do believe. They're called the Fergus socks. These are knit in hedgehog fiber sock that I bought at Art of Yarn in Kelowna. Again, the same time as I bought the other yarn, and it's in the kelp colorway, and I love this. Now, on my camera, it's showing up a little bit more yellow than in real life. It seems to me that it is, I don't even know what, it's a mustardy green. It's kelpy. It's very kelpy. But that is another finished object, so I've got a pair of those. So that was a lot of fun. I think that is it for finished objects. Wow, that was a lot of finished objects. But as many finished objects as I have twice as many works in progress. So, oh my goodness, this is where you really know that you're a process knitter as opposed to a product knitter. You just want to keep casting on, casting on, casting on. And I always hear about that, and I never quite understood why anybody would want to cast on and have so many projects. Well, trust me, I'm the type that I'm like a magpie. You know, as a magpie is attracted to bling, I am attracted to color and fabric and texture and patterns, and I think most knitters are. So I do have what I am considering to be a half finished object. So I will show you that one first because it is in the theme of a sock, of course, because I'm just putting it on my sock blocker here so you can see it a bit better. But these are the springtime socks. There you go. So I'm playing a little bit with color. This sock is finished, yay. Notice it is a fitted sock. It doesn't have all this extra stuff in here. But this sock is a little bit different in that it's got a German short row heel. And the reason that it's got a German short row heel is because my mom was doing a pattern. I was teaching her how to knit socks. The pattern called for a German short row heel, and neither of us knew how to do them. So I thought, well, it's best if I do that at the same time, and then we can both learn German short row at the same time. So what I would say about these socks is, again, toe up seems to be my favorite. I like that. I always have to make a few extra rows in the heel because I have a thicker heel. Pearl Hunter, Very Pink Knits and Pearl Hunter are the two tutorial podcasts that I tend to go to most if I'm struggling or trying to figure something out. And when it came to a German short row heel tutorial, Pearl Hunter has a really, really good one, but she's knitting in one color. And what I liked about that is she adds extra rows before, so once she's decreased for the bottom of the heel, before she starts increasing for the top of the heel, she adds some extra rows in here. And what that does is gives you more space in your arch, because this can sometimes be quite tight in here if you don't give yourself enough room. Because I was doing a different color with the heels, I didn't have that option because, you know, you're only knitting back and forth and back and forth. You're not going all the way around the sock. So I ended up adding 2 more rows at the top and 2 more rows at the bottom. But see, I'm not a very good knitter, and I sometimes don't know the consequences of my actions. And what that ended up doing is putting very big holes right there where the colors join. So I had to stitch that afterwards. No harm, no foul. I had to stitch it on the inside afterwards. And so now I realize that I need a lesson on how to properly stitch holes because it's ugly. It ain't pretty. Not pretty. I'm going to show it to you. It ain't pretty. Don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? That is not pretty. That looks really bad. But hey, they're my socks. They're not a gift, so I don't mind. Again, bought this yarn at Art of Yarn, and I don't remember the brand. I think it was called Colorworks, and the colorway is Shockwave. So very happy. I was going to enter these in Stitching the High Notes other make-along, which was a Beatrix Potter make-along, but they weren't really Beatrix Pottery socks. They were just springtime socks. So I have these beautiful springtime socks. And I am currently working on the second sock, which, as you can see, has a different color toe and heel, so I just alternated it. I know it looks kind of funny when you're halfway through a sock, but every time I do a pair of socks, I learn something new. For example, with these socks and all my socks up to this point, I was using 2.5mm needles, Hia Hia Sharps. Love Hia Hia Sharps. 2.5mm, 32 stitches for my socks, and I was doing the magic loop. If it was just a plain sock, then 2 at a time. If I'm doing a pattern, I can't do 2 at a time. I have to do them 1 at a time, but still magic loop method. Then when I got to, I forgot my needles when I went to Kelowna. The reason, so I had to go, I'll just pop this in here. We were in Spain for a vacation because of my retirement. My dad passed away, so unexpectedly. So I had to come back in January. Wanted to come back. I'm fortunate I came back in time, so I'm very thankful for that. And the whole family was with him, but I didn't bring my knitting needles as a consequence to that rush. So when I went to the Art of Yarn, fabulous store in Kelowna, I have nothing but wonderful things to say. What a great yarn store. I bought some Chiayi 9.5 inch, so 2.5 millimeter, but 9 inch circulars, you know, those interchangeable circulars. And I knit these socks just around and around and around and around and around. So just one sock at a time and just going around. Oh my, did I like that. It took a little while to get used to it, but wow, can you ever fly if you're using those. And that to me is wonderful, again, if there's no pattern. So there's no lace work, there's no pattern, and all you're doing is just a mindless, and this is mindless, self-striping is pretty mindless, then it works really, really well. The toes and the heels, I still had to do magic loop. Couldn't do the toes and the heels with those very short string. Then when I got to these, I thought, okay, I'm going to try something different, because I've seen a couple podcasts where people are preferring to use three 16 inch, these are just 16 inch, maybe they're 12 inch, these are 12 inch, pardon me, 3 12 inch, or even 3 9 inch if you wanted to. I suppose it wouldn't make any difference. Needles, circular needles, and almost like the double pointed needles, DPNs, but you're using 3 at a time. And what I like about that is, unlike if you're using the little wooden or the metal DPNs, double pointed needles, hard to try on the sock with those as you go because they're really stiff. These are really flexible and you can try on your sock at any point. So I actually like this method. This has actually been very comfortable. So far I've done magic loop, I've done the 9 inch circular, just do it around, and now I've done this particular method. Do I have a favorite? I don't know. They all have a use. They all have a purpose. So they all have their benefits, I guess. And I like them all. So I can't tell you now, like when I started podcasting, oh, magic loop, magic loop, magic loop. 2 at a time, magic loop. Well, that's because I hadn't knit a whole bunch of socks. And now what I'm finding, I kind of like all those different ways. Oh, these socks are in my Poppy Cod project bag by Poppy Cod, and she's got an Etsy shop. Anyways, very Canadiana, and I bought it because we were going out of the country for a few months over Christmas, and so I wanted to feel at home. So that's my project bag there. So those spring socks were my first work in progress. Now moving right along, let's get into some meatier stuff. I am not going to go into the next 2 projects very much because I've covered them off in my previous podcast. But I just wanted to remind and reintroduce that I was fortunate enough to do a test knit for Casapinka, Bronwyn of Casapinka, and it's called the Raise the Woof sweater. I have a dog, obviously a huge dog lover, and I have a big dog. So I jumped on the opportunity to test knit this for her, and I did finish it. I did a short sleeved crop version, which is on my Ravelry pages, but I prefer long sleeves and a less crop body because I'm going to wear this dog walking. Let me tell you, this is a great pattern, but look at it. Oh my goodness, I love it so much. Everything a dog loves to do. It's got the birds, it's got the branches, and I'm doing the sleeves. One sleeve is going to have rabbits to chase, and one sleeve is going to have dog bones to dig. So that is what I'm working on, and I think I might have a picture. I do. This is a different version of the same sweater, but look at those wonderful colors. Notice she's got rabbits on her wrists. And I just took that picture off of Ravelry. I thought she did a lovely job. And the name is escaping me. I want to say something. It'll come to me. But that one. So next week I'll be theoretically working on the sleeves to get the pattern on the sleeves and then lengthen the body. And I have yet another sweater. Yay! The other one that I'm not gonna go into depth about, when I finish them, I'll go into more depth about the yarn, etc. This is my sister's shawl. I know you're watching, and yes, eventually, this is the one I got stuck on because I forgot how to do brioche. So this is Andrea Mowry's Brioche-licious shawl. And there's two parts in here. These green parts are brioche, and there's a little bit of brioche in the bottom. And I am doing this particular one in peacock colors. So blue, purple, golds, greens, because my sister loves peacocks. It's a little bit more gold than I had thought it would turn out to be, but I'm loving the colors. This is a play in colors. Like, this is a risk. But honestly, I've left it so long, and that's kind of the challenges with some projects. You leave them so long. I've forgotten how to do brioche. So again, I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I've mentioned that whole saga before on a previous podcast. And so I'd like to introduce a few new things for you. But certainly that is on my list. I'm going to show you a new work in progress now that is not a new work in progress. This is a work in progress from last year. And this work in progress, I watch a podcast called Espace, well, it's not a podcast, well, yeah, it is a podcast. Melissa and Lisa from Espace Tricot, one of the first podcasts that I started watching. And I love Melissa's aesthetic. It's just absolutely bang on mine. And she knit the Hayward by Julie, who's this? Yeah, the Hayward by Julie Hoover. And this is a fingering weight yarn held together. This one is just, the way they did it was just a fingering weight yarn. And it's supposed to be oversized and boxy. It's kind of a theme. I like oversized and boxy. But Melissa had done it in a fingering weight and mohair, silk cloud mohair, which I have to say I love just as much as I think she does. So, however, I'm not 100% sure of my color choice because it is very different from what I'm wearing. I'm also not 100% sure why mine is so huge. I'm using the 4.5 millimeter needles. It's fingering weight yarn held together with mohair. I'm either the loosest knitter in the world or I just cast on the wrong size. I do not know, because this puppy is huge. I don't know. Can you see it? This is one side, and okay, let's just go to the base. And this is the, okay, this is huge. This is me here. I don't know. This is really big. But this is, see, this is the raglan. Like, this alone is the raglan, and it comes down to my waist. I think I've done something wrong. I don't know yet. I'm gonna have to pick this back up. But the yarn that I have used in this was Hedgehog Fiber Skinny Singles Secret? Yes? No, Silence. Pardon me. Silence, which I love. It's just a cream, sort of a, yeah, just a creamy color. And then the Shibui Silk Cloud in, I'm going to say it's coffee. It's a coffee color. I can't remember the exact color of the yarn. But that is, I'm not going to work on this one right away because I really have to contemplate. If it ends up being too big, I will gift it. I don't know if I have. Yeah, I don't know. I got to find somebody who likes those colors. But it's certainly something that I like oversized. So hopefully that will hang nice or drape nice, or maybe I will gift it. I'm not too sure. Then something totally new, because you can never have enough cast-ons and work in progress. My sister has been dying to make the Zweig sweater. Zweig by Caitlin Hunter. And this has been in her, gotta figure out where I'm going. This has been in her queue for quite some time. And so I agreed, twist my rubber arm. I agreed to cast it on with her and knit it with her. Now she's ahead of me, and there's a very good reason why she's oodles ahead of me, which I'll get to in a minute. But what I am using is, this is a fingering weight pattern And it is by, I said Caitlin Hunter, and it's fingering weight, but I have this beautiful DK that I bought at Barcelona Knits. It's by Frida Fuchs, and it's called Wuscheldbier. Don't ask me what Wuscheldbier, it's a German name, and they are a German yarn dyer, and it's in this beautiful sapphire blue. I love this, and I wanted something to knit with it, so I'm knitting this way. But again, it's a DK yarn. And so I didn't really have anything that was DK-ish to go along with in my stash. So I'm putting two fingering weight yarns together. Now the lighting in here does not do these justice, but this is Hedgehog Skinny Singles. I went on a Hedgehog Fiber Skinny Singles binge once, and I bought a whole bunch of single skeins of stuff. I don't know. I didn't understand what I was doing when I just pretty colors, pretty colors, pretty colors. Needless to say, this is called Shiver, and it's a cream base with black, but mostly beautiful electric blues, turquoise, the same blue as in here, and pink. And I wanted to tone it down a bit, so I have paired it with Katja, a yarn by Katja. It's their concept line, and it is silk lace, silky lace. I do believe that's the color of it. Is that what I just said that was? Yeah, it's Katja. I don't know if you can see that or not. Concept, silky lace, colorway 152. It comes in colorways as opposed to an actual color, 152. And my sister is much farther ahead than me, but it is a top-down sweater, which I love, and I have just started the color work, as you can see, but it's got the pinks and the blues that are just picking up really nicely, but they're not too neon-y. It's been toned down a little bit with that lovely cream silk lace from Katja Yarns. So that is a work in progress that I am somehow going to have to knit. Got to keep up with my sister, because I did say I was going to knit this with her, and it's going to be beautiful. What I will say about this, I'm knitting it with a DK yarn, and I thought if I was knitting with a thicker yarn than what the pattern called for, it would naturally be bigger. I do not want a boxy sweater like this. That's not what the pattern is, but I'm in between sizes. The pattern comes, it's supposed to have 2 to 4 inches of positive ease. I have a 38 bust, and it came with 40 and then 44. And 2 inches isn't enough for me to be comfortable. I don't want anything hugging. I'm thick around the waist. Yes, menopause. And I just don't exercise when I should. Let's be honest. A little on the lazy side, so I gotta work on that. But I don't want anything too fitted, and so 2 inches. I would like the 4 or at least 3, a little bit more. So I thought, oh, I'll just use DK yarn, and that will make it bigger. And then before I cast on, thank goodness, I was watching a podcast, and who was I watching? I think it was the Knit Girls, and they were saying that the yarn weight in it of itself doesn't change the size of your sweater. What will change the size of your sweater is the size of your needle. I'm so glad I watched it when I did. So I just went up a needle size, because I don't want this to be too much bigger than the original pattern, but just enough to give me a little bit more room around the waistline. So very excited about this. And this actually is in my Outlander bag, the Jamie bag from Stitching the High Notes. So Opera Jo, or Joanna from Stitching the High Notes, also has an Etsy shop where she does project bags. And this is what my Fergus socks were in, and it's so cute. I don't know if you're an Outlander watcher or not, but at one point at the very, very beginning, when Jamie and Claire are meeting, they're having a little bit of a session, I suppose, and Claire says, well, I guess it's time for bed. And Jamie says, to bed or to sleep? It was to bed, it wasn't to sleep. There was no sleeping going on there. But needless to say, I love it. My Outlander bag from Stitching the High Notes. So, the last work in progress I have, no, it's not the last one, second to last work in progress. I know, this is process knitter versus product knitter. Now, what I will say in my defense is eventually I do finish stuff. I finished the Millie, yay. I have some other finished objects that I will show over time when I'm wearing them. But I have to say, I love casting on. I love trying new. I love pretty colored yarn, as we all do. What can I say? But I started this sweater, and I think I started this sweater in 2018, the fall of 2018. And it's called Breathing Space by Vera Valimaki. Don't know if you can see that. Now, what I absolutely love about this sweater pattern is, one, the neckline. Notice it's not too high up on the throat. I love the diagonal, that it's almost like an empire. Not quite, but right at about the bust line, it changes from a horizontal stripe to a vertical stripe. And the actual hemline on the sweater comes down. It's up on one side and down on the other. And I thought that was absolutely fabulous. So I cast that on, and I had bought some Madeline Tosh yarn. This is Madeline Tosh. Yes, it is. Oh my goodness, my blonde hair is everywhere. And I will make a comment about my blonde hair in a minute. But there are no edits to this pattern. This is how wonderful this is for me. So this is Madeline Tosh Merino Light in the Poison colorway. And this is, I would like to say, Fiber Arts Chocolate Cherries, which I love this. I bought the Madeline Tosh I bought from Jimmy Bean Wools, but the Fiber Arts I bought from Penelope Fibers in Ocean Park. And I have gotten all the way, now funny story about the sweater. So again, got all the way to the hem, and realized it was getting really black. There was a lot of black in this Poison, and I literally had a big swatch of black across. And again, this is one of the very first things I did not understand about hand-dyed yarn. Or just that, some dyed yarns, you should alternate skeins, especially if you're not getting the same batch of yarn, that it can vary in its tones. So you should be switching them in and out, in and out, in and out. Oops, I've got straw there. That's silly. That's not from that sweater. And the other thing that so anyway, I stopped. I thought, oh, I don't know if I like this. And now the yarn on the sleeves is going to be a totally different color. And I didn't know what to do. So I ended up putting away, starting something else, and I forgot all about it. When I came home in March, I started it again. And what I did is my sister told me, Linda, if you're going to start knitting, you're going to have to learn to enjoy the process, because there's a lot of ripping out and redoing. And I thought, oh my God, I'm such an impatient person. That will not be me. I'll hate it. I'll hate knitting. I won't like it. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I don't even mind ripping things out. So I ripped the entire body back up to about here, where I started another new skein, and I started alternating skeins. So that is something that has helped a lot in the overall color. And I'm now doing a split hem. So I have decided that I don't want it just to be a round hem. I want it to be a split hem. So I am doing that. And then I'm just on the ribbing of the hem, and then I just have the sleeves to go, and that one will be finished. But this one is not a priority. I keep saying, I'm so sorry. It's not a priority, but again, a beautiful pattern. I absolutely love it. And it's sitting in a yarn bowl that I got in Fort Langley by a local potter. And I do love local pottery. And if I can find more yarn bowls made by local artisans, I will be buying those. Mugs are another thing that I love to buy. But I'm finding that there are less and less I remember 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there used to be a lot of artisan, handcrafters in pottery. And pottery, I don't know. I don't seem to be coming across them anymore. So if you're a potter out there, please let me know, because I'd like to take a look and see if there's something that I like. This is the last work in progress now, and this has been the reason why the Zweig for my sister is not getting done and nothing else is really progressing at the moment, because I am working on, so exciting, I am working on the button neck sweater. It's from, I think it's called the Berge de France, which is a yarn store, yarn distributor in France. Duke is shaking, sorry about that if you heard that. And this is called the button neck sweater. It took months and months and months for me to find a sweater pattern that was what my husband had in his mind. And this, he wanted a really nice toothy fisherman's sweater. And so first of all, it took me forever to find the pattern, and then it took me forever to find the wool. And so I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on this either, because I've mentioned it in previous podcasts, but this is that pattern. I am knitting a combination of the medium and the large, depending on what part of the body we're talking about. It is in Brooklyn Tweed's Quarry in the Obsidian colorway. I am using 3.5 millimeter needles, so it is a very thick, bulky yarn on a very small needle done in a French rib. The whole sweater is in a rib. And let me tell you, that is very hard on the hands. So I have to sort of do it in pieces and bits and pieces. But what I want to share with you is that that is an old discontinued pattern. And Mary Kate Bourne from Illinois, I think you're from Illinois, Missouri, Illinois. I saw that she had knit it on Ravelry. Pattern was no longer in circulation. I couldn't get it. So I emailed her last year, year before, no, last year, I guess it was, early last year, asking if she wouldn't mind sending me the pattern or telling me where I could get it. She sent me the pattern. And oh my God, I was so grateful. So then I started knitting it while we were in Spain. Yes, I brought all the wool with me to Spain. Why I thought I would knit a really heavy winter sweater in very, very warm weather, I have no idea. Needless to say, started knitting it, but then got all the way to the collar, and the instructions from the collar just do not make sense. I'm just going to say that right now. So I'm going to show you the collar. This is the art for me. Okay, so this, hopefully you can see this. This is the beautiful collar. It will have 2 buttons. It has 2 buttonholes, one there and one somewhere else. One right there, 2 buttonholes. It has a different colored collar on the inside, which is a cashmere blend, so it's nice and soft. And it's got these 2 panels, that just one folds over the other. But the pattern itself says, oh my God, I ripped this out so many times. My mother and I were just killing ourselves last week when I was doing this. It says cast on 17 stitches. Well, I had to cast on 38 stitches. Why? My husband is deeper in the chest, and so every time I was measuring, if I had followed the pattern as to where this opening was supposed to start, where this opening in the neck was supposed to start, it would have started right at the throat for him, because it's just, the body was the right length of sweater, but this was starting way too high up. So I had to peel it all the way back and peel it back down and get it to a better level for him. And that took me twice as many stitches now, twice as much length here. I don't know if it's me or the pattern, but anyway, that's the reality of it. Then it says, okay, so cast on your stitches here, which I did 38. And then it says knit this panel 8.5 inches wide. And I'm going 8.5 inches wide. Okay, well that must mean, well, if they're doing it 8.5 inches wide, I must have to fold it back and stitch it on the inside. It's a double collar. So I did that. My mom's like, no, that doesn't sound right. This yarn is too thick. It'll be too thick. She's made Cowichan sweaters. So the woman knows about thick, woolly sweaters. Me, stubborn, little stubborn. What can I tell you? I'm a product of my parents. Mom, I'll follow the pattern. I'll follow the pattern. I'll follow the pattern. Anyway, they also wanted you to pick up the same number of stitches on this side and knit 8.5 inches on this panel. And I'm going, I did that. So I had 8.5 inches here, it went all the way to here, and 8.5 inches here, and it went all the way to there. And then I was going, now what do I do with this 8.5 inches? I'm folding it over and trying to make it, it was this thick. You would have had a collar sitting out like this thick. It was ridiculous. Ripped it all back out. I followed my mom's advice, and I only did 2.25 inches, 2.25 inches on this side and 2.25 inches on this side. And we had to sort of play with where the buttonholes would go. That is not what this pattern says. This pattern says, I'm sorry, I'm going to read it because quite frankly, it says using 3mm needles. So borders, right. Using 3mm needles. Cast on 17 stitches. For me, it was 38. And work in 1x1 rib until the right border measures 8.5 inches from cast on edge. Fine, then it goes to the left side. Cast on as for the right border. Okay, 38 stitches, and work in 1x1 rib until, this is the other thing, the left border measures 2 3/4 inches. Then put in your buttonholes. It only has instructions to put in the top buttonhole, not the second buttonhole. There is clearly 2 buttons in this picture, but the instructions only give the one buttonhole. And then it says, repeat these 2 rows every 2 3/4 inches, twice more. Continue in ribbing until left border measures 8.5 inches from cast on edge. Cast off. Somehow it's backwards. Somehow we did not understand how that was supposed to work at all. It made no sense at all. So maybe what I was supposed to have done was cast on 17 inches here and at 8.5 there, but that doesn't make any sense with the other instructions. So I know I'm going on, but I'll stop there. But finished result, amazing. And I will put those notes in my Ravelry notes when I get to doing my Ravelry notes, because this is fabulous. It looks absolutely amazing. And Patrick is so excited. He cannot wait for me to finish. It's far too warm to wear this sweater now. Yay. I was knitting it in the dead of winter had I continued with it, but this whole collar thing freaked me out so bad. I just got frozen in procrastination. No, frozen in procrastination. Didn't know what to do with it. So glad I went through that process, because now I know just logic, just work logic. You can figure it out in knitting. And I certainly love that. And that's the value of knit nights, by the way. If you don't have a knit night, or if you don't have a group of buddies who knit, certainly, hopefully these podcasts will help in that regard. Now, in terms of that, I am now on one sleeve is done all the way to the point where I have to do the decreases. The second sleeve, I am now working on the decreases. And so this is all I have left to do, and that's the project for this week, and hopefully I will be able to seam this puppy together this week, and yay, we might have an actual sweater. So exciting! So exciting, because oh my goodness, when you're knitting for a gift for somebody you actually care about, that's yeah, a little stressful. That's all I'm going to say. It's a little stressful. But that is all my works in progress. So, moving right along. If you have any questions about these patterns, please just send me a note. I'm on Ravelry, Nana Knits, and I will answer, or on Instagram, Nana Knits. You can message me if you have any questions about any of these patterns, because it's probably going to take me a while to get the show notes up, because there's a lot here. So I do apologize. This is already going to be an hour, and I don't know, I probably won't edit much of it. So it is going to be a little bit longer than my normal podcasts. So now let's talk about acquisitions, a little bit of acquisitions. Okay, so I'm just going to show you something, and please no judgment. It was over Christmas. It was over Christmas, and we were away from the family, which I've never done. There's only one time I've missed Christmas with my family, and that was because of a massive snowstorm closed down the Coquihalla, and nobody could get through either way. And I don't know if you've ever seen the show, The Most Deadliest Highways. The Coquihalla is one of those. It's a highway in British Columbia. While I was away, I guess I didn't really, how do I say this? I didn't keep tabs on what I was buying online. And this is the danger of PayPal and just shopping online, and nothing can get mailed to you. It's all going to be waiting for you at home when you get back. And then you come back to, yeah, you come back to this. It's like, thank goodness none of it's on credit. However, it's not so much, I mean, one, it's a huge investment, but that's a lot of time. That is a lot of knitting. But, so I'm not going to show all of this to you today. No. But I will start, I'm going to do maybe 3 an episode. Hey, stop scratching. Duke just had a benign tumor removed from his ear, and he wants to scratch his stitches. So stop. Yes. Thank you for shaking. No, he's not allowed to scratch. So when I was, just in the last couple months, I discovered Yarn Cafe Creations and Dragon Horde Yarns. 2 separate companies, 2 indie dyers, 2 independent businesses, but they are a mother-daughter relationship, and they have a podcast that they do intermittently, not consistently, but intermittently. So I just want to touch on Yarn Cafe Creations first, and this week, and then on another episode, I'll do Dragon Horde Yarns. So Christy is Yarn Cafe Creations, and I bought as part of her Christmas Eve cast-on party, because I was so homesick, and I mean, yes, it's Christmas in other countries, but when you're renting a place and it's not your decorations and none of your friends and family around, and yeah, I don't know that I made the best of the situation, but because Christmas is my favorite time of year, so it was a little poopy for me, but we had fun. But it was a little bit different. So I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna lift my spirits, and I'm gonna order these Cafe Creations cast on. And so I did. And this is her DK, where's her DK? This is her DK in cactus color. And this is her mohair silk in cactus as well. And these 2 were to make a hat for the Christmas Eve cast on. Never got around to it because I had to have them mailed here. Because the duties, actually no, pardon me, I had these mailed to Spain when I was there, and it cost me $30 in duty. So note to self, if you're traveling abroad, do not buy, be very clear on which countries you can import from, otherwise you will pay dearly. So this is a beautiful blend of yarn. And the other yarn that I bought, again, because this was all about Christmas, was an actual sock and mini combo. And this was Santa's Almost Here. It is 85% merino, 15% nylon, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. And look at the beautiful, it's a very soft with just a little punch of purple here and there, and a little speckle of raspberry. So the contrasting color is raspberry. I don't know, hopefully the color's coming out for you there. But these 2 together are going to be a beautiful sock, because there is definitely raspberry flecks in there. And so I am looking forward to casting those on when I get more in the Christmassy spirit. But Santa's Almost Here socks. So thank you so much. And Yarn Cafe Creations, again, you can look her up on the internet, but also she and her daughter have a podcast called Yarn Cafe, The Girls of the Yarn Cafe. I do believe that's what the podcast is called. So those are 2 of the acquisitions that I thought I would share with you today. And that, I think that's enough. enough for a podcast. Anyway, so that was episode 5. Again, if this is the first time you've watched and you actually made it this far, okay, wow, that's amazing, and thank you. If you are watching again, I so much appreciate it. Please don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to like the video below. I would like to know if you have any questions. By all means, please feel free to ask me. If there's something you want me to cover, I might have a Q&A session, in a couple episodes from now, because really, podcasting is all about connecting with people, and I'm just feeling so privileged and so happy to be able to share some of the fun of knit that I experience, along with the misadventures, because there's plenty of them, but that honestly is half the fun of knitting. So on that note, I will say thank you for watching. Please stay safe. Please take care of yourselves and your family. Take time for yourself. That's an important one. And I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks so much. Have a good day.